And so it is. Welcome to the Bachelor Review. So this is the data structure that we're working with. We have a hash that has these keys for the seasons. Each one of those is an array of hashes. Okay, cool. And there's string keys too. They're not symbols. Good to know. All right. JSON. Who can tell me what JSON is?
JavaScript object notation.
Cool. What's that mean?
It means collecting everything into one place that actually is incredibly similar to a hash.
Yeah.
Can include strings, integers, other objects. It can include methods. It can include anything.
How is it different than a hash? That sounds like you just described what a hash is.
You know, I'm not entirely clear on that.
Ooh.
I was thinking, yeah, hashes and objects are pretty similar, but I don't know the difference.
Anybody have any insight on that? What is it? How is a hash different than JSON?
JSON works in multiple languages.
It does. Ruby hashes only work with Ruby. JSON will work with just about anything. Why?
Isn't it in the same format that, say, JavaScript would be written?
It absolutely is. It's very similar to JavaScript objects, hence the name. I don't understand how that works in multiple languages and stuff, though.
Wait, I thought JavaScript objects that just was a JavaScript object. Like that's just their version of a hash. It's different.
Correct. It's object notation. It's not an object. The big difference is that JSON is a string. JSON is a string. JSON is a string. JSON is a string. We're going to keep coming back to that one a lot in these 15 weeks. It's a real easy thing to get mixed up about. JSON is a string. It doesn't have any complex behavior. It doesn't have shit. It is what we call a serialized data structure. Whenever you hear that word, sounds very academic, sounds very serious. All it means is turn it into a string. Because I can't give JavaScript a Ruby hash. I can't give a JavaScript object to Python. I can't do any of that shit. But I can give it a string. Like that's pretty easy. So if that string is formatted a specific way, now I can use that to take something that was a Ruby hash and make a JavaScript object out of it and make a Python dictionary out of it and whatever else. All of those languages have ways to translate between this string that's formatted a certain way and whatever their equivalent data structure is.
That is super good to know.
Yeah, isn't it? Data.
And I'm 90% sure I've uploaded the correct link for you, Kyle.
All right, did you put it in chat?
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, I'm going to fork this. That gives me a copy of this lab. I can do whatever I want with. I'm going to take the Git link. I'm going to clone it down. I'm going to delete the other one that I have in here. Oh, shoot. I might have made that one. Hang on. I'm just going to move it. All right. So I hop into Bachelor, bundle install, whatever. And I'm going to let's run the test. All right, we're all green. Good place to be starting. All right, here's what you wrote. Let's take a look at the README as well. And the first thing they want us to do is build a method, get first name of season winner. Ah, like that. Long descriptive name. A lot better than like GTF name FNME SSONWNR. Like, yeah, I'm talking like a computer. Just use the language. All right, so get first name of season winner. All right, so we got this here, and it takes in 2 arguments, a hash called data and a season. The method should return the first name of that season's winner. Hit, you'll need to do some string manipulation, return only the first name of the winning lady. All right, so the way that Logan approached this was to grab the name from winner info by passing in data and season, getting index 0, and then getting the string key for name, and then splitting it and getting the first one. All right, all right. Let's see. Yeah.
So real quick, how do you know in GitHub what is the most recent file that you've worked on?
Good question. So, oh yeah, this is 2 days old.
Yeah, I just submitted it like 30 seconds ago, and I did not know how to tell which one was which thing.
So if you go under commits, that's your commit. This is me like actually making this repo. This is somebody from the Flatiron team adding a .learn file to it. And this is you submitting your answer. That's fine. We got green tests. Perfect place to start. So let's see. So winner info takes in data and season, and then we're trying to find the correct season. All right, well, what's that? Find correct season takes in data and season. And, okay, first thing here. So we're using the curly brace syntax on this. By convention, we only use those if it's on one line. If we're going to split it up on multiple lines like that, change it to do end. So it should look like that. Now, you could keep the curly cues and put it all on one line. That's all right. But regardless, we absolutely don't want to do something like this. Want to fix the indentation. So in general, this def, its end should be on the same line. This select, when we're opening up the block, the end of that should be on the same line. Anything inside of that needs to go in one. Cool. So we don't want 3 equals here. We want 2 for Ruby and no semicolons. They're legal in Ruby, but again, not idiomatic. So we dump those, we change this to do, that to end. All right. And so then we're comparing data to S and season. All right, so my next gripe with this is that we call this data, and then we call this data also.
Yeah, I updated it to receive data. Received.
Cool, very nice. What is the specific problem with this?
You're calling the same thing twice, so it gets confused.
It doesn't get confused. It's actually not even a problem here, but it has a name. What under the hood is happening with that? I'll give you a hint. It's called shadowing is the name for it. It's in almost every programming language.
Is that you just don't want to use the same name for the same thing, or it's for a slightly different thing?
Yes, you don't. Why? It doesn't get confused. It doesn't break. We got green tests. We're fine.
It's just confusing to read.
It's confusing to read. That's reason number one. Reason number two is, and this is how shadowing works, by calling this data, I no longer have access to the original data that got passed in. I have shadowed that variable with another one that I called the same thing.
Hey, Kyle, could you say that again? The audio cut out for me.
Oh, no problem. Inside of this block here, I don't have access to the data that was passed into the method anymore. I shadowed it when I made that the block variable. So if for whatever reason I needed to access both of them, I can't anymore.
Is that because like the memory address is the same location? Then is that what?
No, it's not quite that technical. It's that I declared another variable with the same name that's different shit. And so I can only access one of them. If I called this datum, now I have that datum variable. I also have the original data that was passed in, so I can use either one of them. Let's see if we can get more specific with the names on these. Data, I know this is like what they asked you to name it in the lab, but like data is a pretty terrible name. So anytime you're like naming a variable that, consider your choices. See if you got a better option. So in this case, what is that data? It's all of this. So we could call that seasons. Seasons, I think, is a lot more descriptive. We call that seasons, that seasons. All right. But now we got another problem. Each season, or like if as a general rule, every time you're using an enumerable, if the thing you're enumerating, come on, is seasons, the thing in the block variable should be season. Plural, singular, plural, singular, plural, singular. You're doing select, you're doing map, you're doing reduce. The plural is the thing you're calling this method on. Call it singular. Don't come up with another wacky fucking variable name. That's so much work, and you're going to end up confusing yourself. Always, always, always look for an opportunity to go plural, singular, plural, singular. It is exactly what's happening under the hood. So much less thinking to do. Now the problem is that if I call that season, what's wrong with that?
We've already called season in a different area.
Yeah, we got that shadowing problem again. And in this case, I need access to that thing that was passed in. So I'm calling a season like this array of data. I'm calling that a season. The thing that they're using as a season is what?
The key.
The key, that's string, like season 30, season 29, or whatever. So is there a more specific name that I could use instead of season for the thing I'm passing in?
Contestants.
Contestants, sure. They are like the contestants for a specific season, though.
Maybe season input.
Season input. Input is another one of those like data. I was like, Let's see if we can top that.
Like current season or?
Maybe, but it might not be. It might be season 1, season 2.
Desired season?
Desired season, maybe.
Season
Season
contestant.
contestant.
Season
season
contestant.
number.
Remember, it's a string. The thing that we're trying to name here is like season 30 as a string.
What about season number?
Yeah, sure. I like that. Season number. I could also see like a case for something like season label. I've never watched The Bachelor, but I imagine they probably have like goofy seasons. Like there was season 30, but then before season 31, there was Battle of the Sexes, or there was like Real World Road Rules Bachelor Challenge or something, like some special event or something like that. So they might also not all have like numeric values, but all of them are what we're labeling the season. So I think season label would be like my favorite one. Because the season is that whole array. Season label, that's the name of the season for that thing. All right, I've changed a bunch of things. I want to see if we're still green. We might not be. Oh, we are. Good. Also, you see that warning sign? I have my text editor set up to yell at me when I'm not following some Ruby convention. In this case, parentheses after method name is interpreted as an argument list, not a decomposed argument. So if I do that, make it a lot happier, and it's more idiomatic Ruby now. If you want to install a plugin for that in VS Code, the one that I think everybody uses is called RuboCop.
Could you repeat that?
RuboCop. It's like RoboCop, but it starts with what Ruby starts with.
Hilarious.
Yes. Welcome to programming. It's a whole bunch of dumb fucking jokes like that. All right, so still looking at this find correct season method. Season select, do season, and then we're doing season to string.
Do you not need that because it is a string in JSON?
So it's not JSON anymore. It came in as JSON, but once it got into Ruby, we turned it into a Ruby hash. Once it gets into the language, it gets parsed, that's your vocab word for that, into whatever that language's data structure is. It's JSON when you're storing it in a file or passing it over a network or something like that. Yeah, this is one of the cool things about having Go ahead.
The instructions mention something about the strings not being converted to symbols like usual. Is that because of the JSON or something else?
It's actually probably because of like an option that was passed into the parse. We can take a look at it. If we go into here. All right, so it's JSON parse file read and then the name of that JSON file. No, it doesn't look like it's doing anything too wacky with it. Let's take a look at that JSON. Yeah, even though this isn't like wrapped with quotes, you could imagine this entire file just wrapped in double quotes.
So when we're using a JSON file for our data, we're always going to have to use a string for the key when we're looking stuff up?
Not necessarily. I think there's an option in that like parse thing in like this method call right here. I'm pretty sure there's an like an extra argument you can pass to that that's like, oh, but like make my keys symbols instead of strings.
Because what screwed me up at first was I tried to like import some of the data to run my tests with, and then it was not working when I was trying to like call the information.
Yeah. You'll not spend much time in your career doing that by hand, so I wouldn't overthink it. Rails does a lot of this stuff for us automatically. All All right, so since we have these tests and they're all green right now, this is literally one of the purposes of having tests. It's like, do I need to do a 2S on that? What happens if I just delete it and run the test? It stays green. That means I don't need it. Although I'm kind of curious, what did get passed in here? Because that should have been like maybe the whole thing. We're still just passing in, passing that right on through. We can also change the names here so that this is like seasons. That's season label. Do the same thing here. Seasons, season label. All right. And let's drop the parentheses on this. Oop! Something I didn't like. So now, like, here's a good debugging tip. Remember how it was green a second ago? Let's see if we can get back there and like change fewer things this time. So I think that was green. That's green. All right. And then I changed that to season. Oh, I see what happened. So that's seasons, that's season label. I also have to change that here. Season label. Cool. So am I still green? I'm still green. A lot of like this kind of debugging and programming is like, go forward, go forward, go forward. It broke. It broke. Cool. Go back. See what broke it. All right. And then this winner info, that got called directly also. Interesting. All right. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. Something like this. I do think this would probably be better as a one-liner. So we can swap that here too. So the next thing I want you to take away from this is that don't worry about, oh, am I going to do more than one line? Is it a block? Is it curly braces? Like any of that kind of shit. You're going to go back and forth on this kind of thing. Worry less about getting it right the first time and like feel a lot more comfortable just flip-flopping back and forth between those. We end up doing this a lot in all kinds of stuff in programming. So like in React, for example, there's 2 different ways you can make something in React. Like over the course of 5 minutes, you might flip-flop back and forth on the same thing with that 3 or 4 times. You just make it automatic. And changing back and forth between these, you'll see patterns. That's one of the reasons that you want to do that and not wait till the end or something like that. Different things will kind of jump out at you as you're doing that. Okay, I feel pretty good about this method now. That looks nice. All right, let's take a look at this winner info one. So we're grabbing a season array. We talked about yesterday a little bit, not having the type as part of your variable name. Because you say season array, and then psych, it's actually a season hash. Or it is an array right now, but you tweak this a little bit in a couple weeks, and now it's a hash, but the variable name is array. So you can save yourself all that pain by just leaving it off. So if this one is like find correct season, I like that. Okay, that's the last thing I want to change about this then. Find correct season. We probably don't need to have the like commentary on that. We're just finding a season. Fuck, we might be trying to find the wrong season. But given a thing of seasons and a season label, you can get whatever season you're looking for back. We can take the word correct off of that. Make that this, fine. Make that find season. Okay, I like that. Whistle green. Oop, that pissed someone off. Thought it might. So we can find if there's anywhere else that's using this, and there is. So we'll make that find season, and that, and that. All right. Now, are we green? Oop, still not green. Undefined local variable method season array. And that was get first name of season winner. Ah, I took the type name off of that one. All right, are we green? We're green. Beautiful. Okay, so we're calling that find season, and then we have the season that we found. Let's take the semicolon off. And then we're doing the select again. So let's, since it's on multiple lines right now, let's make that do end block. So then we take the season, we look it up by the season label, and then select through each of those. Okay, so here's the thing I'm not liking. We have this, whatever this is here, which is confusing me a little bit right now. And then we're calling the individual of that contestant. What I want this to look like is contestants, and then select contestant. So without changing anything else, I could probably call that contestants if I do this season label thing on that first variable. If I do that, am I still green? I'm still green, baby. That looks a lot clearer to me. Let's take a look at how that looked before. So I'm calling that contestant, and I like that because, like, what's the contestant's status? They were the winner. I want the one like that. Neat. But that means I want this to be contestants. So I can do that by just making this variable contestants. I can do that little season label lookup on there instead. And then let's go back to the curly syntax. Let's get rid of the semicolon. Mighty fine. That looks like good Ruby code. Now, the next thing that I see in this that I'm head scratching on a little bit is I'm using select on here. We talked about this yesterday. Select always returns a
array.
Array always returns an array. But I want the winner. That kind of implies one. So if I ask for winner info and you give me back an array that has the one winner in it, always, I'm never going to get more than one thing. Seems like, oh yeah, what do you know? I have to get index 0 every time. I'll bet. Anywhere else I need that? So even if I wanted to do that, I should probably do it more like that. And then I can take this index out of there. That's one way to do it. If this really was an array, anytime you're accessing index 0, you're probably better off with a dot first. Does the exact same thing, but it's a lot more descriptive of what you're looking for. Or someone who isn't Logan, tell me what else I can change about this to only get one thing back.
Dot find.
Dot find, thank you. So I can do that, and then still green. Very nice, very nice. Then let's go back to this original method. I want to get rid of the parentheses on that, get rid of the semis. And all right, so I'm getting the name, and then I want to do a split. Oh, I see. So the name is probably going to be their like full name, Beth Smalls, etc. But I only want the first part of it. So I'm splitting on it. Dot split will, if you don't tell it anything else, will split on spaces and make an array of strings of each of those. And then we're getting the 0 index on that. The thing I would do to clean this up is instead of name, let's call that full name. That's being more descriptive to the next developer about what I got back here and even sort of hints at what I'm going to do with it. So I can say full name dot split, and then if I make that dot first, I'm being pretty clear about what should come back from that. And I'm still green.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Is there a benefit to, even though split already splits out the spaces by default, is there a benefit to putting the parentheses with the space in there?
You know, like I was just thinking that. I'm kind of inclined to agree. Doing that, and that'll keep us green. Yeah, that's probably even more descriptive. Even though you don't need to do it, I like that code better.
Cool, thank you.
Cool, so that, and let's see. I know they told you had to name the variables this, you super don't. We call that season label. Do that, we stay green, stay green. I'll also say that like I would probably write this line this way. You should know most Ruby people probably wouldn't. What most Ruby people would do is split that into two. Into like a matching season. Or like then call that like winner full name. No, I guess this is winner. And then Ruby people like having those as like discrete steps rather than like jamming too many things together. I like jamming a lot of things together, so I'd probably write it like that, but I'd say that probably looks more like normal Ruby code. Oh, and also taking the parentheses off of that. So. Ask me some questions about this first method we refactored.
Question.
Yeah.
Is there ever such a thing as too many methods?
Mm-mm. Well, I take that back. There's like not technically like a, no, you're soaking up all the computer juice. There's no like technical reason why you wouldn't want too many methods. The semantic or like practical reason why you wouldn't want too many methods is that the methods are not helping you be more clear about what you're doing. So when the signal to noise ratio just starts tilting to the noise side, I was like, all right, now you're not making it more clear what you're doing, you're making it less clear what you're doing. That's when you wouldn't want to split those up anymore. So like you could probably talk me into, I could get first name method here that takes in a contestant and then just gives you back their first name. So that would be something like contestant name. Now we're not even saying that they necessarily are a winner. All they have to be is a contestant. And then this becomes get first name of winner. And if we do that, still green. I'd say that probably increases clarity. If I tried to take these two things and make more methods out of that, that's probably decreasing clarity. That's probably just adding noise to this. But as you're probably gathering 4 days in, like there's a lot more art and craft to this than there is science.
So along those lines, would you say like you should try and make each method do one very small thing?
Yes.
I did 3 of those in one method, which is probably not right.
That's like good guidelines for every programming language for the rest of your career is like, try to have these functions or methods only do one thing. And what that one thing could be is combining a bunch of different things. That's still one thing if it's not really doing any of its own calculation or logic. If its only purpose is to coordinate a bunch of other methods, that's still one thing. And where that gets interpretive is like, well, what's one thing? Like you could say, I would say taking a contestant and getting their first name, that's one thing. But there's 2 steps to it. So you still have to use your noggin. And somebody will still complain in your code review that like they thought you did it too much or too little. What else? All right, so let's take a look at this next one. Build a method, get contestant name, that takes in the data hash and an occupation string and returns the name of the woman who has that occupation. See how we did it? Get contestant names. All right, it's right here. So first thing I want to do is get rid of those parentheses. Collect contestants. All right, let's see what that does. All right, so this, love this. So we've got a couple things that we need to do here. One is we need to change data to something more specific. We need to look at that accumulation. So when people talk about accumulation, we have this empty array, and then we do a thing, and then now there's something in that array. So you accumulated it. Okay, and then you return this. So you need to get rid of these semis. And all right, let's start there. So it's called collect contestants. What is that data? So we've been calling it seasons. Let's stick with that. The idea of trying to use this, like, if it's the same idea, if we're calling it seasons in one place, that thing should be called seasons everywhere. That idea is called domain-driven design. Sometimes it's called ubiquitous language. But that, like, as your code base gets bigger and bigger and bigger, when you see that word, you can have some confidence that it's actually referring to the exact same thing. All right, so we're calling that seasons. Collect contestants. So now we can call that seasons instead of data. Cool. So that's fixed. Now let's get rid of the semis while we're at it. Let's fix the blocks. So we'll call that a do, and that one an end. That semi. All right, blocks are better, semis are better. So let's take a look at this accumulation here. So we're mapping over the seasons. And in the spirit of that ubiquitous language, we can call that a season label. And then if that's plural, make that singular. And then, ooh, that's an interesting trick. So now we have the singular there, and we need that to be contestant. Ooh, who made this data structure? Not me. All right, and then we've got this all contestants thing that we're shoveling into that. Anybody see the problem with this? It works. The test is green. But we're not actually using the right enumerable here.
Yeah, there's a duplicated seasons.map. I mean, having to use that twice.
This one's season. This seasons. This
Oh,
one's season.
yeah, my bad. I'm sorry.
Should you just be using an each?
Could. There's your hint.
Select.
Collect? Is that what you said?
Select. Because doesn't that create a new array? Right?
Collect does. It's also known as reduce. Reduce is like probably the more universal term. So anytime you're going through something and then you're taking pieces of each of those and building something out of them, reduce, 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 reduce. Now, students get super scared of reduce because it is more complicated. It's more complicated than map, it's more complicated than select. It's just kind of got more going on there. It's also the most powerful of all the enumerables. You can actually recreate all the other enumerables with just reduce. It's worth getting comfortable with. Because what's map for?
Iterating over everything and slightly changing the results in the block.
Mm-hmm. So I got 5 seasons. I want to turn them into 5 other season-like things. So here's your hint that you shouldn't be using a map. If you're not assigning it to a variable, it's not a map. Or returning it, I guess. Because we're not doing anything with those. So like, we're not transforming them to anything. I mean, to wit, we could just change these both to eaches, and I don't think anything even changes. Yeah, still green. So what we really want to do is reduce this somehow. So let's say we do all contestants equals season dot reduce. Yeah, I'm even going to change this to contestants.
Spelling.
Thank you. And then instead of shoveling these, what we want to do is with reduce, you get to pick what you initialize it with. Let's start with an empty array. And then also, we get to accumulate those into something. So, let's see. Right now, I'm going to call this accumulated contestants. We'll come up with a better name in a sec.
And that the accumulated contestants is essentially just your name for the array that you're initializing in reduce?
Correct. So then I want to, I'm calling that season label now, I think. All right, so I do this, and then, so then we have that shovel there. I really want to shovel that into is accumulated contestants, like that. And then return accumulated contestants. So whatever the return value is from a block in a reduce, that becomes the next value of whatever this first thing is. I'll pause, let that one sink in. Whatever gets returned from this do end block, or whatever the last statement in there is, becomes the new value of accumulated contestants. Can anybody tell me what the first value of it is?
Empty array.
The empty array. It's whatever I passed in with the parentheses to reduce.
And that's what's called the memo, right?
It's not quite the same thing as a memo, but it's close. May as well be. It works the same way.
So do you have to have that line that says accumulated contestants at the bottom to like say?
That's a good question. So it depends on whether or not, or what comes back from a shovel operation. I don't know off the top of my head, but in some languages, the thing that returns back from that is just the thing that you just added. If it's that, nope. That means that accumulated contestants, each time it just turns into like whatever the last one was. But if it returns the entire new array, it'll work just fine. So let's see if it stays. Let's see if it stays green. Did you do that? All right. Oops, something I didn't like. Okay, so let's go slow through our logic here. We've got our list of seasons, and we're eaching through them. Oh, I think I see. I'll tell you what. Let's take a look at the problem fresh. So what I'm trying to do is get every contestant from every season. So I need to go through each season and get each of their, okay, yeah, I see this. Ooh, you know what this could be? This is nested reduces. So iterate through each season and then just yank out their arrays. And then we want to jam all those arrays together.
But we also want to add a new key value pair to each of the contestants that has what season they were in.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Cool, that's a map. All right, here's how I would approach this. We are going to reduce over the seasons. And we are reducing into an array. And we're going to call that accumulator contestants. And, ooh, this one, since it's a hash, we actually have two things in there. We have the season label and then the season, I'm going to call that contestants, and I'm going to call this other one all contestants.
Okay, so by adding parentheses, we're able to actually make it so that reduce can receive hash information?
Correct.
Awesome. I've been struggling with that.
There you go. There's the magic trick. Okay, so for each one of these, I want to take the contestants and I want to map the contestants. What am I mapping?
You're going to map to add that new key value pair.
Exactly. I want that existing hash, I want to turn it into a hash that also has that key. So I can say something like contestants with season equals contestants.map and then the thing that I want to do is contestant, what did you call it? Season equals season label. All right, so now we've transformed those. And
so do you have to shovel then contestants with season onto the all contestants?
I could, but really what I'm trying to do is just mash together all these arrays. I've got this array of hashes, and I want to combine it with this array of hashes, and I want to combine that with the next array of hashes. I have a way to do that.
Concat?
Yeah, I can concat that. So I can say that I want whatever all contestants currently is, I want to concat contestants with seasons. So that's going to return that new array with the new contestants. That'll be the new value of all contestants, and then that's going to get concated, and then that gets concated, and then that gets concated. I wonder if that'll do it. Oop, something didn't like.
I think in that iteration, it might have been returning a weird array, so I might have like a 0 on some of the later ones.
Ah, interesting. Let's see how it's getting used. Selecting through those contestant occupation for occupation. Cool. And that's used anywhere else. Okay, that should be fine. So let's debug this. First thing I want to see is what comes back from it. So I'm going to put this here and then binding.pry there so we can take a peek at it. All right, so what is all contestants right now? Oh, that's probably our problem. What's that look like?
So we just have the season label?
Yeah, that's the thing that's getting jammed into that all contestants. Now the good news is if I scroll down through this, that looks like I got all the contestants. I'm just putting the wrong thing in there. So now I want to take a look at what's happening here. All right, so this is going to be the first iteration through this. What is season label? Season 19, good so far. What is contestants? That looks an awful lot like an array of hashes. Good so far. If I look at contestants with season, there's our problem. Something in that map didn't go right. Oh, I see it. Anybody else?
Are you just getting like the same season because you have a contested season that is already returning one thing?
Oh, I'm gonna put this in a block. Maybe we can catch it then.
Are we shadowing contestant?
Nope.
Is it because we're on line 2 right there where it says contestant season, it's just returning the season?
Yep. So I have this.
Oh, do you have to put a contestant by itself after?
Yeah, the return value of this assignment is the thing that you assigned. So what I need to do is return the entire contestant. If I do that, always green, always green. Now I can clean some of the rest of this up. Don't need the variable there. Don't need the variable there. So that looks a whole lot cleaner. And then if we take a look at how we're using it here, I'm going to say that this should be collect contestants. I think that get all contestants is a little bit more semantically accurate. Get all contestants. Get all contestants. We'll change that everywhere we're using that. Cool. get all contestants, and then I select through each of the contestants for ones that have this occupation. 2 equals instead of 3. And then I get the first one and get their name. And I'm calling this one contestant, even though I'm getting back an array with one contestant in it. So somebody who hasn't spoken yet, tell me how I fix that.
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah. So right now, I'm selecting, select always, always, always returns an array. I'm calling it contestant, even though there's only ever going to be one thing in there. And then I have to get the 0 index of it. How can I get around that?
Find.
Find. If I make that find instead of select, now I don't need that part anymore. And are we green? By God, we are. And that feels like a good candidate for a one-liner to me. Oh, we're already using the braces. It's a little bit long, but it's not too bad.
Is there a certain length we should like try to keep our lines under?
80. Yeah, I like it like that. Most languages are pretty forgiving of white space. So like that line goes to 104 characters. That's a little long. So you can do the dot find on the next line. And then no semi there.
Is that convention to move to the next line with the method?
Yep. Is let's say I was doing a whole bunch of operations, this one big long chain, which happens all the time. And this turns into a select, and this turns into a reduce, and that turns into a, I have all these different operations I'm doing. That makes it really easy to follow all the different steps of this long chain that you're building.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And, ooh, check this out. Next thing I'm seeing in this that like I'm inclined to refactor. I'm doing two things. I'm getting a contestant and then I'm getting their name. Don't need the, ooh, interesting. This is get contestant by occupation. And occupation.
Could you make that reusable by changing like the occupation stuff to be where you could put in different keys over time?
Oh, skipping ahead. I love it. So yes, we absolutely could. If I make this, let's see if we can stay green first. So get contestant by occupation, seasons, occupation, and then name. Then I think should still be green. Still green. Cool. So the idea was, all right, well, this only works with occupation though. Well, that sort of sucks. So what if I wanted to get contestant by any field? How can I modify this code to do that?
Would you have to use string interpolation in the contestant key with whatever was the variable put in by the user? So like occupation in the def line would become like, I don't know, like value to find.
Yeah.
And then And then when you're in that, the 2 lines down from there, inside your contestant, would you change that to be a string interpolation of value defined?
You could just say value defined.
Okay, you don't have to make it. Oh, because they're going to put in a string anyway.
There you go. So really, it's not value defined quite as much as it is key defined.
And then you would replace the occupation at the end of your dot find with another key defined.
Yeah. Maybe that. And then this becomes occupation. All right. And then this is get contestant by field. All right, are we still green? Ah, we're still green, hell yeah! And now I have something that's super reusable. I'd tweak the names a little bit. Maybe call that just key and value. Still green, still green. But that's looking like some tight, awesome code to me. Questions? Cool. We're going to stop there, but that should give you an idea about how to approach these problems, how to refactor your code, how to find things to reuse. Well, like this, people always think that like the hard thing about programming is like the mathy kind of shit. It's really not. There's right answers in that, at least. The hard thing is naming shit. It seriously comes down to that. Coming up with really good names for methods and variables and stuff, you should be sweating that. Like that should be hard. Because that's the part that you got to get right. And there's no right answers on that. It's mushy. But there's certainly a lot of wrong answers. So cool. Overall, any last questions?
Just super quick for what you got on the screen right there.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it earlier for that winner info method.
Mm-hmm.
You have a triple equal. Is that appropriate?
Nope. Triple equals a JavaScript thing.
Okay.
Stick with double.
Cool.
Is there any time we have to use a triple in Ruby?
Maybe, but I haven't seen one yet.
Can you scroll to the method with the reduce real quick?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We got past in seasons. We're reducing them into what starts as an empty array that we're labeling all contestants. Then we take the season label and the contestants from the season. We map over each contestant and add a season property to them so that we get this modified array. And then we concatenate that with whatever all contestants is right now. The first time through, we concatenate an empty array with the contestants from season 1. Second time around, we're going to end up concatenating the contestants of season 1 and the contestants of season 2. Third time around, we're going to end up concatenating seasons 1 and 2 with season 3. Other questions? Cool. Doing be well.